pretty selective about orthopedists, or is like just give me one? I don't care who it is.
Well, it's kind of like everything's kind of up in the air right now because I don't have fucking insurance.
Yeah.
So Chris Wilde recommended somebody whose kid I've helped coach Chris Wilde's kids basketball team.
Yeah.
And he's like, you've coached this kid's son. Maybe he can fucking give you a good deal, whatever. And okay, we're live. And he's a block away from Colleen's apartment.
Oh, it's awesome.
So I called over there today. His assistant was like, he doesn't have an appointment until the 22nd. And Chris texted his wife, and now it's already 2 o'clock.
That's the power of connections. I mean,
There we go.
yeah.
Welcome, everybody, to the Dirty Sports Podcast. I am your host, Joe Prano, coming to you live from the Smut Studio in Venice Beach, California, with my co-host for 2 episodes in a row, with an episode break in between, the second of the Twin Towers, the Dream Team, Mr. Tug Coker.
Hello, Joe.
Tug, we have I feel like we're the Seattle Seahawks backfield at this point.
It's so true. It's so true.
Today's episode was almost you and Nick D'Alessandro as co-hosts. The potential starting backfields today suggestions were you and Nick and Twerks with Wolves.
Yeah.
I think Trevor was called at one point. Andy Lazarus and his dog that I stole were 2 potential co-hosts. But here we are. Andy Ruther, the ombudsman of the Dirty Sports, is still in Cincinnati. For people who don't know, who haven't been keeping up on social media, Andy went home last week because his mom got sick. His mom passed away, was it late Tuesday, early Wednesday of last week. So if you guys were unaware of that, please send your well wishes to the Ruther family. You all right over there, Doug?
I am, but in the spirit of attributing to Andy Ruther,
he hates it when the bathroom
hates when the bathroom door is open.
Yeah,
he hates
but we
it.
plugged into the bathroom.
I tried to change it to honor him, but Nick, this is his first time on the job here.
Yeah, Nick's been here. He's been living in the Smut Studio with Andy out of town. He's been holding down the fort. We now have a full production crew.
We do. Nick, can you see the bathroom in the reflections of anything?
No, I cannot. We are good.
Okay.
No bathroom.
Andy,
so
and you know Andy, who is still
in the middle of
dealing with a family
Andy's
issue.
memorial. He's talking about the bathroom reflection.
Yeah.
But Joanne, who has been a guest on the Dent Report and been mentioned many, many times on this show, did pass away. Andy, I believe, has the funeral today or the wake today and the funeral tomorrow. So obviously, if you haven't already, send your thoughts to Andy and all the Ruther clan. I know it was pretty sudden and caught everybody by surprise. Obviously, it's nothing as I spoke about when my dad passed away after a long time coming. I wasn't prepared for it even then. So for it to jump up on Andy so suddenly, I'm sure it's been really difficult. And just send your thoughts and your messages and prayers if you're one of those people to Andy. And 2020 off to a hot start for the Dirty Sports Podcast. 2 days after that, I was up in Tahoe doing shows, just enjoying myself on a ski mountain when a Mexican snowboarder fell and cut me off at the knees, and I have now broken my fibula and my tibial plateau. So if you're not watching this on YouTube, I'm sitting here in a pretty severe leg brace with Tug took a picture of my swollen leg.
Incredible ankle. You're working. I need Booger to come on the screen and break down what a tibial plateau is for all of us.
Yeah. So a tibial plateau is you have the 2 joints where your knee meets. There's the 2 balls where your knee meets. There's a knee cap on the top side of that, but the top of the bottom part of your leg, the big bone on the bottom part of your leg is your tibia. Your tibial plateau is the ball that sits on top of your tibia.
Got it.
That connects to the ball that comes from whatever the fuck the top part of your leg is.
No, just break it down for us. This
Yeah.
is a sports-centered podcast.
Yeah.
I think of you as an athlete. Some would say Russell Wilson will be able to move around that skier.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, you weren't able to. What was going on? Take us through the play.
So I was just I was skiing with a bunch of friends, and we were on Heavenly, which is straddles the state line of Nevada and California. We had spent the majority of the day on the Nevada side. A couple of my friends were getting ready to go back to work at the pub, McDuff's Pub, the greatest pub in the continental United States. So they were like, let's get back over to the California side. As we started going over, when you're traversing a cross mountain, you usually go on a very low grade slope. So my buddy was like, keep your speed through here. We don't want to have to push if you're on skis, or get off and push with your leg if you're snowboarding. So we were just on like a little catwalk going, and it's one of those things where everybody's going straight and doing the speed that they're just trying to hold their speed. So I'm passing people who are going slower than me, people who are going faster than me. A lot of times skiers are going faster than snowboarders. Skiers are going faster than me. I'm passing slower people. Eddie passes this guy who's for some fucking reason is running right through the middle of the trail. Hasn't picked a lane left or right. Eddie passes him on the left. I go to pass him on the right. I don't know if Eddie spooked him on the left or what, but as I'm approaching him, like if I was on a highway, I am a car length behind him. I am pulling up to his back bumper. He's on my left. He falls. He's goofy. He catches his back edge and does a right turn. 0 reaction time whatsoever. I just run directly into his back. If you've seen any football play where a running back is running and somebody takes out their legs and they flip, that is exactly what would have happened to me, except imagine that running back's legs are stapled to the ground, and therefore, instead of flipping, my body went forward, my feet stayed put, my tibial plateau and fibula fractured.
And yet, you still had the wherewithal to go through all that and perform that night.
So went down.
In the annals of history.
Went down to the
Pretty
clinic.
incredible.
Went down to the clinic. Got there's a long and hilarious story about my time in the clinic, which we'll give you the brief version of here. But essentially, I didn't want to be admitted because I have no insurance. When I couldn't stand on it, they forced me to be admitted. Finally took X-rays, found out that I had fractures. At that point, the assistant's mind was blown that I had a tibial plateau fracture and was trying to leave. He's like that. He's like, that's some pain. That he's like, most people are in here like biting down on wood spoons. And then they wanted to do surgery immediately, but I'm still too swollen. So they said swelling has to go down for you to have surgery. When are you supposed to go back? I said Monday. They said best thing to do. Finally, we can, now that we know that you're not going to surgery, we can give you some painkillers. So here's some painkillers.
But not enough.
Not enough to kill me. Yeah, I said, was this enough to kill me? And they said, no. It will put you in a coma. I said, that sounds like a hospital bill too. So they said, just take painkillers and stay in bed, keep it elevated. And I said, well, if I'm going to be here for the rest of the weekend, I do have 3 more comedy shows. And since I'm going to need every dollar to my name, I would like to finish these comedy shows and get paid for them. And they said, if you can get down to the shows and you can get through it, do it. So Friday, running on adrenaline and not too much food and just a couple painkillers, I crutched my way to stage and sat on a stool and nearly passed out. I almost passed out on Friday. It got very dicey. I got very lightheaded. At one point, and I had to put my hat up. I felt like I was going to pass out under the lights. Got off stage, survived. Saturday and Sunday in a wheelchair with proper nutrition, with painkillers. Two solid wheelchair sets.
Do you feel like the audiences are different because they you've been sort of through a traumatic experience? Over the
Yeah.
weekend? Were they with you more? Or
Yeah,
what was the
a
feeling
little
with
bit. Friday, everybody seemed really confused.
that? I believe that. We saw some videos on some Instagram stories. Which
Friday,
were great.
everybody seemed pretty confused as to, like, he just doesn't look well, probably shouldn't be up there. Saturday they were fun, but also like the sympathy went out the window pretty fast. They were like, okay, we've heard the story, now get to the jokes. Sunday, as Sunday crowds tend to be, the most chill, the most relaxed. Sunday was a great show. I wish I had my first 5 minutes from that. It would be the first time I ever put up an Instagram with closed captioning of my stand-up. So yeah, got through, and hopefully we'll get a check for that soon. And like I said about my parlay that hit, each one of these bills will pay for 1% of my what I'm sure will be $70,000 knee surgery and recovery.
Yeah, I know you showed that ticket just a little too late. Otherwise, we all could have got involved. I mean, I think between both of us, we were undefeated in the NFL this weekend. With the public plays. So
yeah.
Nice hit, by the way. 4
Thank
for
you.
4 on the parlay, which was for 1,000, to win whatever.
Yeah.
But, it is what it is.
So yeah, if anybody though does want to help out, Venmo's always open. At Joe Prano, no insurance, doctor's appointment today with an orthopedic surgeon in the South Bay, which I'm sure their South Bay orthopedic surgeon prices probably like their
Goodwill.
gas prices.
Exactly.
So at Joe Prano on Venmo if you want to help the knee surgery cause. Let's talk about some of this football, Tug. We have, I would say, the big three today. We have the NFL. We've got the college football championship that happened yesterday, and we have the Astros.
Can't wait for the Astros.
We have the Astros scandal, and I'm sure there's other things going on in sports, but considering Andy's out of town and my knee ligaments have left the building, we'll keep it pretty tight. Let's go in order. The first football game of the weekend was it Niners-Vikings?
Correct.
That first? Yeah.
Yep.
So Niners-Vikings on Saturday early game. Everybody had, said Kirk Cousins has proved everything Kirk Cousins needs to prove. He beat the Saints in New Orleans. Kirk Cousins isn't the issue anymore. In a sense, I want to say all props go to this Niners defense. They are playing incredible. The pass rush is incredible. They're getting healthy at the right time, which I think we've seen with a lot of championship teams. Smartly sometimes you got to win without your best players sometime and hope to have them when the going gets tough. And but at the same time, Kirk Cousins remains a guy who, against a good pass rush, seems to wilt.
I mean, you managed it was the early game, but it wasn't early enough because it wasn't 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Kirk Cousins and his Excel spreadsheet living.
That game started at what?
1:35 West Coast
time.
Yeah, he's all messed up. He had no clue what he was doing. I agree with you. Earlier in the week in our previous podcast, I said the Vikings have a chance. However, I started to get a little scary, and I texted you this when everyone on Get Up, every single expert on ESPN picked the Vikings to win the game. That's always
so
the kiss
weird.
of death.
Yeah.
Like whenever an underdog becomes like sort of a favorite by the experts, it's like this is going to be a blowout, and it was. I mean, I agree with you. The health of the Niners defense is imperative. Everyone's getting healthy. Pass rush is getting healthy, and then also Kirk Cousins, and Zimmer and Stefanski, who became a head coach this week.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah. 7 offensive first downs. Like, just looks. The offense was anemic. There's no game plan. There's always a default somehow in the Vikings offense to go conservative.
Yeah.
You needed to. It was like happy to be there. I said this on a tweet earlier. It's like it felt like they were just like, oh, we got to win. Like monkeys off our back. Cool.
Yeah.
We talked about that in a previous podcast. Like, these games.
It really seemed like the running game. They got tackled for a loss, blown up. Like I think on the first play of the game or the second play of the game after a pass attempt. And it just seemed like right in that moment, the tone had been set. Like, you're not going to run the ball on us. We dare to throw. They threw. I believe Cousins was sacked 6 times. And
7 or more 3-and-outs.
Yeah. And honestly, the Niners really seemed to go in the second half to just go, like, we've won this game. Let's stay healthy. Let's, just go into cruise control. I feel like this could have been a way bigger blowout. At no point, though, did the Vikings seem at all like they were going to threaten offensively.
And I will say this: like, I don't know, and I think you're on board as well. Garoppolo hasn't shown us enough yet to be like put the game on my back. I'm going to win you this game. The difference is their defense is elite. Sherman is still playing. Sherman talks so much, but he is backing it up.
Yep.
And Shanahan, I think, is awesome.
Yeah.
Like Shanahan is like a guy that you're like, I'm scared of this guy because he's just so innovative with his game, calling. So they're dangerous. The Vikings. It's crazy to me to think that they lose offensive coordinators every year under Zimmer.
Well, they're going to get Shermer back, it sounds like.
Is he coming back?
It sounds like it sounded like Shermer was going to just return to his old position.
I thought he'd gone to the Broncos, but it makes sense for him to just come right back.
Yeah.
But they lose offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators every year. Somehow they think the tree from Zimmer is awesome, and he's a good coach, but he's like 1-5 as a 7-point underdog. They don't win outside of the Saints. Like they just don't. They're not pulling a Titans-like run.
Yeah.
Now
we were talking about Garoppolo. I don't think you watch Garoppolo like it was like a high school stat line. Like just run the ball, let your defense play, don't fuck it up. And he didn't have to do more. But do you believe that Garoppolo has the ability to win a Super Bowl in him right now? Or do you just believe that their defense is good enough that he can, like many quarterbacks we've seen, and we're going to obviously get into Russell Wilson, but screams to me shades of a young Russell Wilson. Great running game, great defense. Don't fuck it up. In 5 years from now, if he blossoms into some sort of, great passer and he's got that Super Bowl under him already on a team where he had to do almost nothing, I just feel like that's where, this other guy who we'll talk about later's legacy has sort of come from. But I certainly think that Garoppolo right now can beat any of the three teams left with just managing that offense, letting the defense do what it does, letting the running game do what it does, and just throwing to open guys.
I agree. I mean, I think the Shanahan, again, has the ability to get players open. I mean, Garoppolo's biggest games, I think he had a big game against the Saints, but he also had big games against the Cardinals. That's where his famous, you got it, whatever his baby call was with Aaron Andrews. But so he hasn't really shown me yet that he's going to – the Packers, they've destroyed the Packers on Sunday Night Football a few weeks back. I always get a little nervous when there's a big blowout game and there's a revenge opportunity. That does scare me.
A little Aaron Rodgers, return to the Bay.
Yeah, exactly.
They
didn't draft me.
Him. Yep.
So we'll see about that, but I agree with you. I don't think he hasn't shown me enough to put the team on his shoulders, but hopefully the scheme and the defense will be enough for him to, if you're a Niners fan, get them a Super Bowl.
And as far as matchups go, you can't really get a better Championship Sunday marquee than Green Bay at 49ers.
It's old school.
For a chance to go to the Super Bowl.
Mid-90s was like that.
That's what, 9 Super Bowls between them?
9 Super Bowls between them, yeah.
And one between the other two?
Yeah. I mean, the Titans obviously have been in one Super Bowl. Came this close. I mean, I'm excited about that. I've called the Packers paper tigers, but I also said they only have to win 2 games.
Right.
So I don't think they're a great team, but they're set up with a chance to win this game. They're 7-point underdogs right now. I think that the Niners will probably win this game. We'll find out. We'll talk about it more later in the week, but they have an ability to create a pass rush. They don't need to blitz Aaron Rodgers. Sometimes, you saw this we'll talk about the Packers game in a little bit, but they try to put some pressure on him. And he would call out of it and just kind of put Devontae in a one-on-one and just make a great play. So
we'll get to that game. Before we move on from Niners-Vikings, obviously you said Stefanski, the coach of the Browns. People were joking about it. I saw Simmons with a great tweet that's 5 straight 3-and-outs. The Browns are ready to hire Stefanski right now.
Yeah.
And they did it. Is how do you watch that game and go we must hire him the second it's over?
Especially when wasn't the defensive coordinator for the Niners also a candidate?
Yeah.
Interviewed?
Yeah. You would think in this game it's we clearly know which one of these guys is better.
One of you will be eliminated.
Yeah.
2-minute or one-man leave.
There's a game of chess. The loser gets to be the coach of the Browns.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I was surprised. I mean, first of all, there's been so much turmoil within the Vikings. If you think of the course of the year, Diggs and Thielen basically blasting the offensive scheme.
Yeah.
And then Diggs throwing his helmet. that's not really. You're not showing me leadership within that offense anyway. Then there's some flow, and then they just kind of lose their identity again. So
now, like the Vikings, the Vikings have all this money committed to Kirk Cousins. The defense has been great for the last 5-6 years.
Yeah.
They have certainly talented wide receivers. They have a talented running back. Like what is the problem with the Vikings? Because there was a lot, and I went back and forth with Charlie Ryan, who's worked a lot on the show on the offensive. People love to just throw bad offensive line out there when a team struggles to protect it. Like Kirk Cousins has had bad O-lines everywhere he's gone because Kirk Cousins refuses to get rid of the ball when the pass rush is heavy. But their offensive line isn't bad. It's not superb. But I really feel like if you're looking at this Vikings team, it might be coaching. The fact that Shermer went and gets fired, you're going to go and hire Stefanski for the Browns. That's that's the job no one wants. Mike Zimmer, every week in, week out, year in, year out, criticized for just the strategy that they take, especially on an opponent-to-opponent basis. It just doesn't seem like they change their strategy
I think that's
at
right.
all.
You brought up a point I was going to say, which is for the Browns to say to not look at Shermer, who was just in that position Stefanski was in, and be 2 and out, and they're like, so why are we grabbing this guy? This guy showed no success.
Yeah.
So I don't. It's just
the reason I bet the Niners in this game is I said, oh, okay, yeah, the Saints, the Vikings beat the Saints, great. But 3 weeks ago, when they went up against the Packers, who had their pass rush working nicely that night, Kirk Cousins looked miserable. The Niners' pass rush, significantly better. I'm going with the Niners.
And there were spots this year where Kirk Cousins looked, I'm not going to say elite, but very good.
Yeah.
He had a very good run in the middle of this year. So it's hard to say. And plus, Dalvin Cook, when he was healthy, was dominant this year. So it's hard to really lay the blame at the feet of the offensive line when both guys at times this year were really, really good.
And also sometimes you have, the idea that your quarterback gets sacked 6 times and that's it, game over, it's not necessarily the case. Sometimes you have to overcome. We're not getting a ton of protection. Our quarterback's going to take hits. We're going to get sacked a bunch. But we've got to find a way to survive those and still at least be in the game, give yourself a chance to win. And they didn't. They were never in that game. It was 7-7. That was the last time they were in that game.
I asked Charlie Ryan, because I got into a nice little thread with a couple of Vikings fans, Stanga, Charlie, and a few other guys. And I said, I'm curious to know about the motivation of coaches that have interviewed for head coaching positions. What's their win-loss record in the playoffs? And Charlie went and dug some numbers up, and I just want to put this up. This is a real-time nug by Charlie Ryan. Since 2009, there have been 76 new head coaches. 38 of those were offensive or defensive coordinators for another team the prior year. That's half. Of those 38, 28 made the playoffs in their last year, calling plays 74% of the time. And those teams have gone 23-27 in the playoffs. And only Frank Reich won the Super Bowl in the year prior to leaving. So I thought that was interesting. It's I don't want to – psychology is a thing. It's who knows.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm just curious when these coaches take time out of their week to go interview, are they 100% in on making this team better? Or are they sort of one eye saying, I could be the head coach?
Yeah.
It's just something that I thought about. I don't think it's I think coaches are good enough to focus on 2 things, but you're not. But we can also admit you're not spending 100% of your time.
Sure, absolutely.
On a game plan.
Yeah.
So, anyway, shout out to Charlie Ryan for making a real-time nug.
The second game on Saturday, Titans-Ravens. Mike Vrabel, the Kingslayer.
I gotta say this. I think you other people might agree, but I'm not surprised. I wasn't surprised by this at all. I mean, I was drinking beers with Nick on Saturday night, watching this game, and I posted this on Twitter. I think Tennessee's going to cover for sure, if not win, and it just felt like 10 points was. I've never seen a double-digit favorite that was more vulnerable for whatever reason.
And I looked at that game and I said I don't want really to even fuck with the 10 points because I said, but in my head I said it probably is, but I don't want to get burned on some late thing here or there because I know one thing for sure. This game is going to be under because they're going to run the shit out of the ball on both sides, which actually ended up not happening for the Ravens, who abandoned everything that they had done the whole year. And Lamar Jackson throws the ball 50 times, 51 times.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think even more.
57?
Yeah.
It was some
Let's
ludicrous
get that stat,
number.
Nick. Crazy amount of time, and he actually like had a ridiculous, from a stat point of view, huge game.
Yeah.
But you look at where they left the ball on the field, on the Titans side of the ball, like they were inside the 30 like 6-7 times and come away with 12 points. Over 3 on fourth down conversions. Just a couple.
After being perfect during the season.
Yeah. And I think
obviously Ingram not at full strength, but
and sometimes like you want to people they've been punching people in the mouth so many times this year. They got a quick punch to the nose.
Yeah.
7-0, 14-0, and then everyone I think started to have a little bit of a panic.
Yeah.
It started to set in like we're in a little bit of trouble here. Do we have the offense to come back? Do we have the Mahomesian skill to like overcome a 14-point deficit?
It really seemed like they abandoned their personality. Like you watch that, I believe it was I'm not even sure it was a primetime game, but the game against the Rams, you guys went to that game. That was
That's right.
The Ravens. They were scoring like it was like watching the Mahomes offense. They were scoring at will, running the ball, throwing the ball. It just seems like they got entirely away from their offense. And let's be honest, Lamar Jackson, you don't want him throwing the ball 50 times. I don't think it's in any team's recipe to win in the playoffs for a quarterback to throw the ball 50 times. I'm not sure it's in the recipe to throw the ball 40 times. So for an offense that broke the NFL rushing record, team rushing record during the season, the idea that your quarterback throws the ball over 50 times is ludicrous.
Now, Lamar, I think Nick looked this up for us, threw for 59 attempts.
59, so 60 times, essentially.
59 attempts, 31 for 59, 365, a touch, 2 picks.
Yeah.
Ran 20 carries for 143 yards. So he did fill up the stats sheet. But again, it's just about like finishing. And there was just, and all the analytics people like don't believe in momentum, and why that may be true. Like they're just, you could see him get deflated sometimes. You saw him get frustrated.
Yeah, you saw him. He was swearing. He was tossing his helmet.
Yeah.
He was saying outside. Yeah, absolutely.
It's the point in time when those turnovers happen that are really crushing. Like the early drive in the third quarter gets shuttered. A couple bad picks.
The idea that momentum's not a thing is crazy because even momentum theoretically is helpful, right? The Titans go up 7, get the ball back. They have momentum. They take a shot. They take that long shot down the field that goes for a touchdown. That's a momentum play call. That's a play call that you make because you're like, hey, if we throw a fucking, if we throw a deep pass here and it gets complete and we score or it just goes for a long play, we can take control of this game. That's a momentum call. And if we miss it, so what? Then we go back to handing the ball off to Derrick Henry. But it worked and went for a touchdown. I mean, momentum's 100% a thing in this game.
Well, we talked about Garoppolo, sort of like, can he do just enough
Yeah.
to win the team a Super Bowl? I mean, we got to put Tannehill in the same boat because it's the second game in a row where he hasn't played like he hasn't blown up, done just enough. His stats from that game are 7 for 14 for 88 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Ridiculous.
The leading receiver was Raymond, who had one. I'm not even sure who that is. One catch for 45 yards and a touch.
Yeah, that's the one long play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Derrick Henry went for 30 for 195, and he threw a touchdown.
Yeah, the jump pass was incredible.
So I mean, do we think that Tannehill could be in the Garoppolo spot of doing just enough to get them?
The only reason I think that the Titans do not have a chance next week is because what they were able to do in this game is essentially what the Texans did to open the other game, and the Chiefs won by 20 points. The idea of getting punched in the mouth, going up 14-0, they got punched in the mouth, went up 24-0, they didn't blink. He threw for 4 touchdowns in the second quarter. They ran away with the game. It didn't seem to me at any point like it was like, oh my God, certainly 14's not doing that. And the Titans don't have the ability to get out beyond that. That was just about as much as the Titans can do in sort of taking the game over, because they're going to do it with the run, which Derrick Henry has been amazing. I put on the rundown. Is Derrick Henry the best football player in the NFL today?
I think
like
right now, yeah. We talked about this on the last podcast, and it's only been enhanced. He looks like Paul Bunyan or like Johnny Appleseed out there. I mean, it's just like real professional athletes are looking up at him like, oh my God, are you superhuman?
A lot of people were saying, I forget specifically who was on it yesterday, but that the Ravens needed to win this year. We are two of the early proponents of quarterbacks on their rookie contract. If you look at the Final Four, you've got Aaron Rodgers, some people's GOAT, Patrick Mahomes on his rookie deal, Tannehill on a deal the Dolphins are paying entirely for, and then you've got Garoppolo, who's got a deal that's pretty solid, but also they extended him coming off of a trade. They got him what's pretty valuable right now.
And they took discounts. I mean, Richard Sherman is on a discount deal because he negotiated it himself. Now, you saw maybe this diatribe he went on last week where he was trying to say, I didn't mess this deal up.
Yeah.
Very interesting to watch people say, like, that debate about whether he made a good deal or not. But, like, the point is when you're one of the top 3 or 4 cornerbacks and you're making $13 million, it's a value for the team. So they're being really smart about the way they put their team together with a quarterback who is, eating up more of the salary.
Is the Ravens Super Bowl window closed or closing because Lamar Jackson will demand a shit ton of money to be the quarterback of the Ravens that perhaps plays a style of play that was exposed as not Super Bowl style?
Well, I think every team's window is always closing, with the exception of the Patriots. I mean, the window seems to be closing now, but after a 20-year run.
Right.
Or if you're an all-time elite quarterback.
Yeah.
Like, Peyton, Aaron Rodgers. I believe Mahomes to be in that category.
I agree.
So, like, we see Mahomes having probably multiple shots. But most other teams,
the
windows are always closing.
It had been how long since the Chiefs played an AFC Championship game? I think the thing that was like 40-something years, something like that. Now they've been in
two home games in a row.
2 in Mahomes' first 2 years.
And so, especially for a couple reasons. I mean, the stats on Greg Roman offense, the first year with the quarterback is very good, but the numbers people start to catch up with the system just a little bit. Lamar, while be able to be smart about where he runs in space, still is a runner. So pulled hammy, an injury, Carson Wentz situation, a bad hit.
Yep.
Like, it just the risk is greater.
Which it seemed like a couple people tried to get that shot in on him on that game.
And that's going to happen for the rest of his career, So the number is always one hit away.
And he threw up his hands at one point. It's like, hey, man, you're running. This is going to happen. They're taking shots at running backs like this. They're taking shots at receivers like this.
I know a lot of Ravens fans kind of had this fear, which is like, did we peak too soon? And, I sometimes you just don't want that streak to end. Like, you don't want that bye. You should have just kept playing. So I root for Lamar Jackson. Definitely want that team to be relevant. That division with Lamar, whatever the Steelers are doing, we'll ask Nick on that. Baker, Burrow, it's going to be super fun.
Yeah.
For the next couple years at least. So hopefully the Ravens do it, but I do think I would be scared that, like, we talked about last week with Drew Brees. It's just hard to get there. It doesn't matter who your quarterback is. It's hard to get there. I'd be nervous if I was a Ravens fan.
Well, Tug, before we get to the Sunday games, before we get to the 2 Sunday matchups, I have been, as we talked about on the show, I've been sort of bedridden since Friday afternoon, besides getting out. And honestly, I can say top 5 worst parts about being bedridden is I have not been able to clean up this face in the last few days. When you have this mustache, it's so important to keep the rest of your face looking clean, or else you just look like a dirty weirdo. So I actually had, my manager was nice enough to get me all settled last night, and I said, you know what I need? I need a mirror that suctions onto the wall in the shower, and she got me a shower stool so I can sit in the shower and shave. And what will I do that with? Of course, Harry's razors. Harry's razors. How does Harry's tie into your New Year's resolution? Manage your personal finances. Razors can be expensive, but at $2 per cartridge, Harry saves you money all year long. Take better care of yourself. Harry's makes award-winning razors along with a whole range of grooming essentials to keep your 2020 routine in top shape. Doug,
Sir.
we have a special offer for our listeners. Harry's wants you to start the new year off right. New customers get $5 off a Harry's trial set when you go to harrys.com/dirty. Harry's knows a great shave doesn't come from flex balls or heated handles. They have the best razors, the best shaving cream. I can tell you, without a doubt, the best aftershave, because a lot of times I get all red and torn up from getting this beard off, and I love to use the aftershave. Oh, God, it smells so good. 100% quality guaranteed. Harry stands behind the quality of their products. If you don't love your shave, let them know, and they'll give you a full refund. Harry's has a special offer once again for new customers. $5 off a trial set at harrys.com/dirty. You'll get a 5-blade razor with a weighted handle, foaming shave gel with aloe, and a travel cover. Join the millions of guys who've already switched. Go to harrys.com/dirty and claim your offer. Doug, let's talk a little of the Sunday games. The first game on Sunday was that was the Bill O'Brien, the Boob Bowl, Boob game.
Yeah.
24-0. The Texans get out to they have a very well designed play to go up 7-0. They get everybody to bite on a fake screen.
Love that play.
Like Kenny Stills is the most wide open I've seen somebody in the NFL in a long time. That didn't happen on some sort of halfback toss play. They come back. They get a punt block touchdown. Yep. I forget the third score right off the top of my head, but the fourth scoring play for them was 4th and 1, deep in Chiefs territory. They decide not to go for it. They call a timeout. They still don't go for it. They kick a field goal. They go up 24-0. Chiefs turn the ball, punt again, and the Texans have the ball then on their side of the field, and they decide to go 4th and 3, fake punt, and they get stopped short. 2, in my opinion, huge momentum plays in that game, settling for the 3 instead of going up 24 instead of 28, and then turning the ball over in your own territory, giving the Chiefs life. That was when the Chiefs' run started. The Chiefs were winning the game by halftime, and the Chiefs go on to win 51-31.
Yeah, and just to correct you really quickly, they went for that fourth. They went for the field goal, and then the Chiefs scored.
Okay.
And I'm bringing this up because there's and then they went for the fake punt. So it was 24-7.
24-7.
And,
okay.
and this comes to my point. There's a difference between being aggressive because this is our mantra, this is our motif, this is our attitude, and being aggressive because it smells like fear.
Yeah.
It smells like, and that punt to me felt like the fake punt smelled like the wrong decision. It smelled like I listened to Twitter. You know, I know Twitter is going to be on me. I'm going to stay aggressive.
And almost like I listened to Twitter after I didn't go for it on.
Correct.
It's like
two wrongs don't make the right.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you go for that.
Pick
on
a lane.
Yeah, exactly.
Go for it on 4th and 1 to try to make it 28-0, and then also just say this is our thing. We're not going to take the Chiefs are so good. They're so good at scoring points. We're not going to take our foot off the gas pedal. We went for it down there, whether we got it or we didn't. Now we're going to fake punt. But to play conservative and then get aggressive on and flip it to be conservative when you're on their end of the field and then aggressive when you're on your end of the field. To me in that moment it was Bill O'Brien's left tit and Bill O'Brien's right tit smashed together in a big just cleavage sandwich.
Central tit.
Yeah, just boob bowl.
I mean, I saw that. And like another thing that we talked about, which is, you know, previous game, Ravens, a little panic, 14-0 down. We were I mean, if you're on the Chiefs, like, you and I was on the over, which won by halftime, which is amazing to win those games. But we're concerned, obviously. You don't want to be down 21-0, kind of like the field goal, but you never felt like, whoa, this is still in the realm of possibility.
Yeah. And
Vegas only made the Chiefs plus 300.
That's crazy.
They still said, you know what? I don't know how much I want to believe in Bill O'Brien yet. And of course, over the course of a quarter, they're now leading, win the money line bet for the half at 28-24. Terrible play. The field goal is such a disaster. You're deep in their territory where you go for it, you don't get it. There's still got to go 80 yards to score. You get it through. 24 is still a 3-score game. Make it a 4-score game.
Yep. Are there storylines to take away from this game other than Bill O'Brien is an awful football coach, and the Chiefs' offense is clearly going to put up points regardless of who they play, and they're looking like they've got to be Super Bowl favorites right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. The thing is, though, their defense still gave up 31 points. I mean, there was a block kick in there, but there's guys out there like McCockiner and stuff like that who say, Brady can win, with 16, 14 points.
Right.
I don't know if you get that feeling with the Chiefs.
Yeah.
The Chiefs almost feel like, even though their defense is good, when they do play a game on a neutral site, if they're lucky enough to get there, can their defense, hold them? I mean, will 28 be enough to win?
Yeah.
So that's a concern that I have. Like, you just get into a little bit of you'd have to be in a shootout probably.
If I ask you've got a stack of money, you can't spread it around. You've got to put it on one team. Who are you putting on?
It's always been the Chiefs.
Yeah.
For the last half of the year. I think you were a big Chiefs guy too. I think you went Niners just because you thought Chiefs would be the popular pick in your pool.
Yeah, exactly, in my pool.
But we all feel like the Chiefs were the team.
I mean, I had Chiefs, Packers preseason.
Correct.
Chiefs,
Either
Chiefs,
way,
Niners
you look great.
Yeah.
So it's tip of the cap to you.
Yeah. Provided the Titans don't go to the Super Bowl.
They will ruin it all.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a point. I was going to say, like, NFL's on line one. They do not want to see a Tennessee-Houston AFC championship game.
Yeah, it was awful.
I mean, there's talking about 30 million viewers tuning out. I mean, just a 2-hour difference just getting the sports media. This is a little, what was my called? Tug Minute? Or forget the old thing.
TC Minute.
TC Minute, thank you. They moved that time 2 hours, which used to be like a 1 o'clock start Eastern time, 10 o'clock here. They moved it 2 hours, and the audiences were gigantic this weekend. Game started at 12 out here on the West Coast, 3 on the East Coast. 30 million people tuned in for that game. Big numbers obviously for the Seahawks-Packers game. There is some discussion out there of, everyone's talking about it. Romo getting a big offer from ESPN.
Yeah.
Will he be the next voice of Monday Night Football? $14 million is what I hear that ESPN is offering. If I just a quick aside, if you are Tony Romo, do you want to work for ESPN or CBS?
If you're Tony Romo, I don't think it makes a difference, right? You're sort of just you're going to do what you do regardless. You're going to show up. ESPN's going to give you a lot of money. Monday Night Football is the premier job. I guess you want to work for
Sunday Night Football's premier job, I think. I mean, Monday Night Football used to be.
Yeah.
The games sometimes are terrible on Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
They can't flex, so it's obviously not the premier game.
Sure, Sunday Night Football. Yeah.
So I mean,
but certainly more premier than daytime.
Correct.
Daytime football.
The one thing I think that Romo is probably working on behind the scenes, as you know, he loves golf.
Yeah.
CBS and ESPN both have the Masters. I bet you he's working in some way to do some sort of golf announcing as well, just to stay with Jim in some capacity.
Who
can help sweeten the deal?
Him and Nance doing the Masters. That's kind of awesome.
So how are they going to sweeten the deal? So he's covering something on the Masters or some PGA event. I mean, we all love to make fun of Booger, but maybe it's fun to make fun of Booger. Maybe that's the thing.
Is Booger involved if Romo's involved? There's Booger out.
100% out. The Boogermobile is back, though.
Yeah. Booger's back on the sidelines.
Nick, you got any thoughts on that?
Hold on one second. We gotta turn you up there, buddy. All right.
You're here. So if I'm ESPN, every week whenever there's a Monday night game, you go on Twitter, the number one thing that's trending is Booger McFarland. So for CBS, I feel like it makes a bigger difference if you lose Romo because like who comes in and fills. But like for Monday night,
Phil Sims. Do they go
Go
back
to Phil.
I don't think this is helping Monday Night Football at all. You're gonna watch a Monday Night Football game regardless, just because I mean it's football on a Monday night. Whereas I feel like there's competition on Sunday, which is where Tony Romo already is.
I mean, ESPN has to make a play to flex the games in their next contract negotiation.
Yeah.
It's such a big win for the last half of the year. I mean, you get stuck with these like terrible
Giants,
games.
Eagles.
Yeah, you think it's going to be good, but they're not. You got to move it. But you know, Romo. I know Andy's not the biggest Romo guy, but I think Romo's.
I hated Romo as a player, obviously as a Cowboy, but I think he's fantastic.
It's just entertaining for me. It's just, I mean, I am a Cowboys fan, but I find him just to be entertaining. I just find it to be fun to listen to. He teases. Yeah. He does some good job teasing Jim Nantz. You don't hear enough like color guys teasing the play-by-play guy, and he does it very subtly and tries to get Jim to like go on record with something, and Jim just doesn't want to do it.
Yeah, and meanwhile Romo does it like every other play.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm interested to see where that goes, but I made a joke on Twitter that they're undefeated 2-0 at Arrowhead Stadium in the playoffs when with the over. So we'll see if it's 3-0 this week. They love points. There's a lot of games, a lot of points in Patriots Chiefs last year. A lot of points. Titans Chiefs. I don't know if we're going to see those points, but we'll find out.
Do you give the Titans any shot in that game?
Definitely. They beat them. They beat them earlier in the year.
Yep.
35-32. I'd like to see. I need to do a little research and see what the line was then versus now, just to see. I think it's either 7.5 or 9.5 now.
I think it could be a close game. I think it could be a game that is controlled by the Titans running the ball, playing defense. But I just can't see them keeping up. I see it being a game that the Chiefs kind of pull away at the end. That if it was a 70-yard race, we're gonna have a game, but it's a 100-yard dash, and they're just gonna, it's that last 30 yards that Usain Bolt just goes, see ya. And we were talking about Mahomes, and you said a generational quarterback. I think when you look around the league right now, obviously the quarterback's so important. We talk about it so much on this show. He's one of those guys like Rodgers who I go, you have to give him whatever he wants. You're truly building this around him for the foreseeable future of the next 10 years, where I, again, don't even think you can say that about the Goffs and the Wentzes and the Dak Prescotts and, even Garoppolo. Like, you look at guys and you go, if the best quarterbacks in the league are always going to be, I need to get into that top 5 money. Look at the Vikings. Like, the idea that the Vikings are paying Kirk Cousins the second most money in at quarterback is ludicrous. And it just, honestly, it just doesn't. It literally hurts your team because you're now taking that money away from other people, and the value that you're getting from it, it isn't that much more than wins over a replacement player. Whereas I think when you look at a Rodgers or you look at a Mahomes, it absolutely is. And that's what, we'll talk a little bit about in this next game, because I think everybody sort of undoubtedly thinks that Russell Wilson is part of that group of guys in the Rodgers and Mahomes, and I just straight up do not agree. I do not agree. And we'll transition into that Packers-Seattle game.
Let's do it.
Comes out 21-3. To be completely honest with you, I was on. I double dosed my painkillers, and fell asleep for into a bit of a coma for most of the first half. I technically was watching it, but it's very blurry. But I know 21-3 at the half, and in the second half, I watched the entirety of the second half. The Seahawks make a valiant effort to come back, but in the end, the Packers only score 7 more points in the second half and still win 28-3. To me, the tweet that I put out after the game, which of course got my co-host Andy's panties in a bunch, was that I believed, this was essentially a game that was mostly controlled by the Packers, but were certainly points in the second half where it was sort of anybody's game to take control of. The Seahawks had multiple shots. The Seahawks had a chance to take the lead. And Aaron Rodgers delivered on some big throws. You know, he didn't have an old school Aaron Rodgers, just like light him up kind of game, but he made the throws when he needed to. And conversely, Russell Wilson takes that huge sack prior to Pete Carroll punting on what ends up being their last drive. And as I tweeted, this is again as Andy LaRutho like to his signature, his trademarked segment, #facts only. Russell Wilson has not converted a third down via pass in his 2 playoff losses, yesterday and the loss last year to the Cowboys. He doesn't stand in the pocket and deliver on third down, which you can say, oh, what does it matter? What does it matter? Well, what it matters is Aaron Rodgers did it twice in the fourth quarter, and it was the difference in the game. The big play to Adams, the questionable, spot to Graham, but those 2 throws were the game.
He did convert a fourth down.
Yes.
So
yeah,
we got to get all the facts on the table.
Sure.
And he did run for some first down.
Yep.
The throwing thing, I think, I probably stand somewhere between the two of you. I do think Russell Wilson is better than you think he is. But both those bad plays for him, were not blindside sacks though. Like the blitzer was coming into his face. Like
yes.
I was surprised that he wasn't able to move out of that way. Makes you wonder if Russell's just doesn't trust enough guys on the wide receiving core to like make plays. Where is Devontae Adams is the best. He's back and healthy now.
Yeah,
and he had an awesome game. I think 8 for 160, 2 touchdowns. It's great to have.
Yeah, he had I think Rodgers completed 16 passes, 8 to Adams, 8 to the rest of the team. And I think it was like 160 and 40 something to the other guys.
Yeah, and this is this is sort of the theme for Green Bay this year. It's like they win whatever you want to call it, ugly, whatever you want to call it. They're winning games a lot. Are they winning in defining nature? I think a lot of Packers fans are probably a little scared of the second half. I mean, Russell just had that little bit of second half magic, but it was their inability to me, except for that one time when the Griffin brothers got to Aaron Rodgers. Like Aaron needs to be pressured out of his spot a lot, and if you can't get pressure on Aaron Rodgers, he's gonna find ways to beat you, and he's still scary.
And to me, it's sort of the difference in the game is like Aaron Rodgers didn't play out of his mind, Russell Wilson didn't play out of his mind, but if you ask me, I think Aaron Rodgers played pretty good, but he played good enough to win because he made a couple of really, really clutch plays. And Russell Wilson played really good, but didn't play good enough to win. You look at a game that's 21-3. I mean, he scored 3 points in the first half. A lot of people, questioning how good Green Bay is. I know you called this the Paper Tiger Bowl. This isn't the first time this year that they have gotten out to a big first half lead and downshifted and gone like, we just need to hold on. And you can be the biggest Russell Wilson stan in the world. He put up 3 points in the first half.
I mean, Aaron only put up 7 in the second half.
Yeah.
I think that's an MO. I mean, everyone's, a lot of Packers fans are coming out of the woodworks to bash McCarthy. As a Cowboys fan, I'm like, I don't love the McCarthy hire. I'm cautiously optimistic about the hire.
Yeah.
But this is something that's throughout Aaron Rodgers' career, where you see like a 20-point quarter, and then you see like 7 points the rest of the game. It's just kind of what he does. So I think, Russell Wilson, like the Seahawks to me were paper tigers this year. They won a lot of one-score games. Could have gone either way.
Well, they
needed Josh McCown to have the hamstring ripped off his bone to win that game. Russ did convert some big third downs in that game, but it's a team they should have beat down. So the fact
I know, and here's the thing: I know Russell Wilson has stats that you can't argue with throughout his career, but when you look at the playoff success that Russell Wilson has had throughout his career, let me just tell you the rankings of Russell Wilson's defenses in his career: 1, 1, 1, 3, 14, 11, and 21.
21 this year, right?
Yeah.
So they're the worst this year. I mean, it was obvious.
Yeah, and it's obvious. Now, everybody wants to tell me this guy is the MVP and this guy can carry a team on his own. And I'm not saying, by the way, that you should be a guy who takes a team to the Super Bowl when your defense is ranked 21. Not a lot of quarterbacks. I mean, there are some, but not a lot of quarterbacks take teams that have a defense that's ranked 21st and take them to the Super Bowl. But we've talked about it before, and I'll say it again. When you take $35 million and give it to your quarterback, it has to come from somewhere. You don't have an elite running back. You don't have an elite defense. And basically at any position, you have one maybe elite defensive player. You have a wide receiver core of Lockett, who I think is highly underrated, and the Seahawks have gotten a ton of value out of. DK Metcalf, gonna need to get paid at some point, but was good enough this year as a rookie. This is part of building a team. You have to put together a full team, and Russell Wilson, when he was not getting paid, had the number one defense, the number one defense, the number one defense, the number one defense, and the number 3 defense. Now when he's getting paid, he's got 14, 11, and 21. He's got 2 Super Bowl appearances in that first half. He's got none in the second half. I know everybody wants to fucking suck his dick all the time, but I'm just saying we have to keep it just a little bit. We just have again, facts only. This is the way the Seahawks as a franchise have changed with the emergence of Russell Wilson and paying for the emergence of Russell Wilson.
He's from Virginia, so I give him the benefit of the doubt. Shout out Virginia. Let me ask you this. McCarthy can be a good coach, which I believe he is, but relationships can get stale professionally. Rodgers and McCarthy probably just got a little tired of each other.
Yep.
What do we think about Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson? Do the Seahawks need to look in another direction? Pete Carroll, I think, turns 70 this year or next year. Do we think Pete Carroll has one of them wasted each other's without Russell Wilson, Pete Carroll has a under 500 record all time as an NFL coach. Do we think Seahawks need to move on for Pete Carroll?
Well, in a way, I think they've already made their bed, right? They've already given Russell Wilson the money, so they're not also putting together an elite defense, which is what Pete Carroll had the majority of his. He's a defensive coach. He has had the majority of his success both in the NFL, in college, by having crazy talented defenses and then saying, this is how we're going to win the game. With the money going to Russell Wilson, that is where the focus is on the offensive side of the ball, whether they like it or not. So unless there's going to be, unless Pete Carroll's going to, change his, I don't think he's going to change his style, but unless he's going to get very creative in how to build a defense with, that with the finances that he has available to him, then yeah, in a way, I think you've already something's got to give here. Yeah. Pete Carroll's not putting together an elite defense while you're handing Russell Wilson $35 million.
No, we don't know the structure of Wilson's contract. Aaron Rodgers is another quarterback who makes a lot of money. This year is actually, I think, only $6 million off the books.
Right.
Next year it moves to $20 or $21 million.
Right.
So we'll see what the Packers are like this year, but they caught him on a good year.
Yeah.
Good window. He's only making $6 million. So maybe it's moved around a little bit.
And also, just like I'll say it again, I like when you're talking about quarterbacks and when you're talking about the class of quarterback, the Aaron Rodgers and the Patrick Mahomes, those guys are in I don't want. If I'm being completely honest, and I'm building a team, and you're coming in with your agent or whatever to talk about don't bring up you're not Aaron Rodgers. You're not. The bottom line is you're not Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers has gotten it done in some regard with less than quality teams. Again, he was the 6 seed or the 5 seed when they won the Super Bowl. He put that team on his back. I know Russell Wilson has had great years the last couple of years, but that's not when they've been winning. And I've been critical from the beginning with one particular thing about Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson holds the ball too long. This from ESPN Stats and Info.
Joe
yesterday.
Nugs.
Russell Wilson averaged 4.03 seconds to throw on Sunday, the highest in a game for any QB with 20-plus attempts over the last 4 seasons. Only 2 of his passes came out within 2.5 seconds of the snap. Here's the thing. My criticism of Russell Wilson is he holds the ball too long. This stat says in a playoff game, for a chance to go to the NFC Championship game, he held the ball longer than any quarterback in the last 4 seasons. You can argue anything you want, but you can't argue with me that Russell Wilson holds the ball too long, or as Andy would say, you're a fucking flat earther. These are facts, people. More than rookies, more than guys who have never fucking have experienced at any level. The guy holds the ball too long. Stand in the pocket and deliver, especially on third down. You're going to have a better chance to win. I understand that he does a lot of things for the Seattle Seahawks. I understand that he converted 3 first downs by running. But how many of those third down conversions, when you're scrambling, have a chance to go for a touchdown? That third down conversion on the first play of the game with the Texans, they had a 3rd and 1. They converted it into a Kenny Stills wide open touchdown. I get Russell Wilson will slide at 12 yards when they have 3rd and 11. But that your defense isn't sitting back there going like, he's going to pick us apart. And I think that as much as everybody goes, oh, it's great to have a quarterback who can scramble, as a guy who watched Daniel Jones this year, stop scrambling, start standing on your spot and throwing strikes and leading us down the field to win this game. I think Aaron Rodgers did that 3 more times, and that was the difference in the game. Russell Wilson did it however many, let's say. They were 3 for 9 on third down. He has yet to throw a third down conversion pass in his last 2 playoff losses. Call me a Russell Wilson hater, but also just call me facts only.
I mean, look, I know you're passionate because I can see the swollen ankle throbbing down below. And that's what's great about Joe, is that he, has a traumatic accident on Heavenly, but never loses, never wavers on his belief that Russell Wilson is average.
Russell
Above
Wilson,
average.
Russell Wilson is
Not elite.
Russell Wilson is great. Russell Wilson, yes, is not an elite quarterback, especially today, where I think we are in a dire situation in the NFL where we went through a nice era where there was a lot of elite quarterbacks. We're down to just a handful now, and I just truly believe that Russell Wilson isn't. I think everybody is just so quick to, and to me, it's like you can be great, but just like keep it in perspective. When Russell Wilson has the ball late in that game, it's not like when Aaron Rodgers has it. It's not like when Patrick Mahomes has it. When they were down 21, when I wake up out of a painkiller coma at the half, 21-3, I'm 95% sure the Vikings are going to win this game. Meanwhile, when Patrick Mahomes is down 24-0, I'm 85% sure he's going to score at least 25 points in this game at some point, and they're going to be ahead. That's just the difference to me.
The last stat I'll leave you with, according to NFL stats, and in the divisional round, Russell Wilson is the only quarterback in the Super Bowl era with multiple playoff games with 100-plus passer rating and 50-plus rushing yards. Everyone's got facts, which makes it fun. But, Nick, I got one question for you before we move on to this actually relates to the college championship game.
Okay.
Talking about quarterbacks of the future. You are a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, right?
Yes.
Which quarterback in your division, presumably Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield, scares you the most for the next 7 years?
I mean, I feel like it has to be Lamar Jackson. Does it not?
You tell me.
I haven't seen. Well, it's not just Lamar Jackson that scares me. I think it's just that whole what's around Lamar Jackson that is frightening to me, and the weapons they have. Because you look at Cincinnati, and like, can Joe Burrow turn that team around? I look at Cleveland; they're always a mess. It's like the Ravens and that style of offense is frightening to me for the reason that just, I mean, it's just Lamar Jackson out here, you know? Like, it's just the crazy athletic ability, you know? And just having 3 first overall picks in the same division, and we're still hobbling out Ben Roethlisberger is just like, when is Pittsburgh going to draft a quarterback?
It's a great question. I mean, I got to say, last night, as we transitioned to the college football championship, I was impressed with Joe Burrow. Like, he impressed me last night.
Yeah.
I think I was on Clemson. I thought they weren't going to be scared of the confines but the last 3 championships that LSU has were in LSU or in New Orleans, excuse me. They got down early, and Joe Burrow, like, he looked legit to me. I mean, he looked good. I mean, who knows? As Andy will often say here, like, the Bengals can destroy anyone's confidence.
Yeah.
But I like he seems very low key. He seems to take everything in stride.
Absolutely. I was impressed. I think Joe Burrow is grade A prime steak, whereas Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers right now sort of looking. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger and many of his body parts looking like ground beef. That being said, before we talk about the national championship game, Doug, we have another great sponsor, Butcher Box. Speaking of meats, Butcher Box, I got it for Christmas. Andy got it for Christmas. I still have chicken and steaks and beef in my fridge. It's the best meat out there. Guys, Butcher Box is one of our sponsors for 2020. Talk about making your most for 2020. What are some New Year's resolutions this year that you're making? How about eating better and spending less time and money at the grocery store thanks to Butcher Box? Butcher Box is the meat delivery subscription that gives you more time for what matters most. Each month, they send a box of the highest quality meat for a better price than the grocery store, which gives you more time to spend cooking and sharing delicious meals with your friends and family like Nick and Tug.
That'd be awesome.
Every month, Butcher Box ships a curated selection of high-quality meat right to your home. All meat is free of antibiotics and added hormones. Each box has 9 to 11 pounds of meat, enough for 24 individual meals. It's packed fresh and shipped frozen and vacuum sealed so it stays that way. You can customize your box or go with one of theirs. Either way, you get exactly what you want. Butcher Box is the most affordable and convenient way to get healthy, humanely raised meat. With Butcher Box, you get highest quality meat for around $6 a meal. And they even have free shipping nationwide except to Alaska and Hawaii. Because if you don't live in the continental United States, we don't care about you. Right now, you can get 2 pounds of salmon absolutely free. It's kind of just mocking the Alaskans with that, right?
That really is a dig.
2 pounds of salmon absolutely free plus $20 off your first box. Just go to butcherbox.com/dirty or use promo code DIRTY at checkout. That's butcherbox.com/dirty or use promo code DIRTY at checkout.
Grade A meat.
Grade A meat. The LSU Tigers. The Tiger Bowl. Tiger off.
Wow.
Joe Burrow and Coach O, the fucking most dynamic duo. Is the saddest part about Joe Burrow going number 1 that he has to leave Coach O? Like, that relationship just seems that's a movie right there.
I know. I can't quit you. I mean, there's a little bit of like the not to punch down on Dabo, but like that's a little bit of the Bill O'Brien Bowl. I mean, he just got a little lead and a little torching.
Yeah.
I mean, unstoppable. And then Joe Brady, I think that's his name, right? The offensive coordinator, 30 years old, coming from the Saints organization, just made this. They just looked like a pro-style offense against some boys out there. It was a beatdown.
Coach O's hiring by LSU, and everybody always kind of wanted Coach O to have a head coaching job. He was like Mr. Interim Coach for a while.
He was.
And everybody wanted him to have a head coaching job because of his personality. He gets the interim job at LSU, does well enough that they actually give him the job. And it was sort of universally mocked by people. I'm not a big college football guy. I was for it for, obviously, our show, and just seems like an awesome guy. But, I mean, he's proved everybody wrong for sure. Like, I mean, what he did at LSU, that a lot of people saying the greatest season in college football history with the teams that they beat.
They beat all the top 4 preseason favorites.
I believe I saw a stat today that they beat, like, during the season, obviously rankings change, but they beat teams ranked 1 through 7.
That's incredible.
At some point during the year.
I mean, they went into Tuscaloosa, beat Alabama. Torched Oklahoma, beat down the defending champion. Joe Burrow goes. Everyone sort of says Joe Burrow's good. Trevor Lawrence is better. We'll see about that in the NFL. But on a one-game basis, he came in, played a lot better.
And a lot of people saying the best college football season by a player as well.
60 touchdowns. That's
14-0, national championship, Heisman, 60 touchdowns. I mean, plays lights out in both playoff games. Plays huge in basically every big game that they had this year.
Looks like Macaulay Culkin a little bit.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that's a positive. But they're 15. I think they might end up 15-0 with that game. That's like a full pro football season. 15 games. That's a crazy amount of football that they're playing. I think college basketball is also the same time. They're playing like when we were growing up, it was like 20, 25 games. Now they're playing like 35, 40 games. Pretty soon, college football is going to have a full NFL season. They're going to have an 18-game schedule.
Yeah.
On top of books, air quotes, right, guys?
Yeah.
Books. I mean, they talk about Joe Burrow not even going to class. He just
Yeah.
takes his classes at home. And
I mean, if you're Joe Burrow, you're leading the LSU Tigers to their first championship in, I don't know, what's that, 15 years?
Yeah. A few.
Yeah, I don't even think
something?
they require you to live in the state of Louisiana.
No.
Like live wherever you want.
He's going back to, he's presumably all accounts going back to Ohio to, lead the Bengals.
And Joe Burrow fans, separate from Ohio and Cincinnati and whatever fans, Joe Burrow fans are already on like the where he goes after the Bengals train. I saw that yesterday, that he's a Saints fan and he loves New Orleans and he loves being down there in Louisiana. He's Saints after Breeze, and it's like, come on. He's going to the Bengals. If they're smart, he'll be there a while. The fear when you look at a guy like, because Burrow just seems like a nice guy.
Totally
seems
nice.
like a great relationship with the coach. Just seem, he's got a great family. You hate to see him go to the Bengals because you're like, I want him to get a fair shot in the NFL. And how many guys have gone to teams and it's like, I don't think Jamarcus Russell's an NFL quarterback if he doesn't go to the Raiders. I don't think Ryan Leaf doesn't get addicted to drugs if he doesn't go. But you look at other guys, even Vinny Testaverde. Vinny Testaverde put on a decent season, or put together a decent career on his second half of his career. But he starts with the Bucks.
36 picks.
I mean, you start even Steve Young with the Bucks.
Right.
A lot of guys had their chance, and you just hope that Burrow. In a way, I hate to say it, but I kind of hope Cincinnati turns it around and Burrow's the guy.
I think Burrow should go to the XFL and just start a whole new league.
Just go.
Become the number one figure.
The Herschel Walker, the Rocket Ishmael.
Only lasts more than 2 years in the USFL. Imagine that. He brings another league into existence, dominates it. Steve Young for a small window of time. I think that's where he should go. I mean, he's playing against Cardell Joneses of the world.
Yeah.
You get a ring right off the bat. Back-to-back rings.
Make a ton of money.
We all know his ring size is 10.5. He told us last night.
That was ballsy.
It really was.
I think the greatest thing that came out of this game, shout out to the thread that made this happen. Aaron Maharis puts up, I don't know if you saw this.
I did see this.
That he thought Coach O should be, there should be Coach O voice navigation. Somebody replied, you should have Prano do it and we can live vicariously through you. I didn't even know this was a thing. I went into Waze. You can record your own voice app, which I did as Coach O, and then it's shareable. So we put the link out on the Dirty Sports Twitter feed, on Dirty Sports Instagram. I recorded, 40 voice commands as Coach Ed Ordron yesterday.
I checked it. I listened to the first one, and it was hilarious.
Yeah.
A little Alabama reference. This is amazing.
Some of them are pretty standard because I want you guys to get where you're going safely. But I think there's a let's roll, not like roll tide.
Exactly.
Hazards ahead. I believe there's an alligator or some other kind of hazard up ahead. Coppers have set up a speed trap. Watch out. So if you want Coach O, go to Dirty Sports and follow that link. You can download Coach O as your Waze navigation. And I didn't know this was a thing. I feel like we have to do this for pretty much everybody who makes a guest appearance on this show.
100%.
I mean, I feel like Bill Walton needs to tell people there's hazards ahead, too.
It's collect them all.
Clear your mind's eye. Watch out for the speed trap ahead.
I love it.
Yeah. So download that, and you got Coach O, and send us some videos of Coach O navigating you through town.
Hopefully safely.
Hopefully
we don't want to
safely.
see any
Yeah.
wreck videos,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah, there's a couple of them. There's a couple of them that he's not super helpful with. Like once you start getting the kilometers, he wasn't happy that he even had to record kilometers in this America. And what the fuck is a roundabout? So yeah, enjoy Coach O in the Waze app. Clemson loses this game, but we talked about the quarterback thing. Lawrence played lights out last year. This year, I saw some stat that he overthrew more guys than like anybody in the history of college football in this game.
Oh, is that right?
Like he more overthrows since like in like across college football like in like 2 years or something like that.
Well, he didn't look very good. He didn't look very happy. I mean, he hasn't lost as a collegiate quarterback, right?
Yeah,
So
until last night.
And this happened. This is a narrative that you see a lot. Like, with the this. I remember the U.S. Clemson being dominant didn't happen to LSU, but also happened with USC running into Texas. These things happen. I mean, the Ohio State Miami game from like the early aughts, 01, 02. So, the difference is he's not going anywhere this year. He's got a year to come back. Very interested to see who's going to tank for him and how much he can develop. Obviously, he shows he needs to develop because the system kind of let him down, or maybe just didn't play very well.
How much of the LSU success do you think goes with Burrow? Or do you think that this is, because Burrow obviously wasn't even getting PT at Ohio State, wasn't incredible last year, new offensive coordinator, but obviously this has been, Coach O turning that system around. Does LSU compete for the national championship next season?
I think the rankings came out, or the odds, I should say, for next year, and I don't think they're in the top handful. Clemson is again the favorite for next year. And just to recap, so the odds for next year, Clemson is basically just over 2-1 favorite. The top 5 favorites are Clemson, 2-1, Ohio State 3-1, Bama 6-1, Georgia 8-1, LSU 8-1. So they're top 5.
Yeah.
Then the numbers go down a little bit to Florida and Oklahoma and Oregon. So to answer your question, I think LSU for years has been anemic on offense.
Well, I know very little about college football, but one thing I know in my little watching, and I used to date a girl who was a big LSU fan, so I used to watch a lot of LSU games. I did say this, and it's my only college football claim, is Les Miles was fucking terrible. Literally anybody but Les Miles with the kind of talent that comes out of Louisiana and the LSU Tigers can be competitive every year. They get rid of Les Miles. So we're a couple of years removed. They have a national championship.
I mean, yes, that's true. I mean, Odell was on those teams. Jarvis Landry.
Les Miles.
Didn't even think about those guys.
Les Miles sort of got the national championship with a Saban team, and nothing else after that.
And it was interesting because they got some great wide receivers this year. Apparently, the wide receiver class coming out this year is, by all accounts, the best wide receiver class in the history of NFL drafts. So very excited to see where all these talented guys go. And and Kirk Herbstreit last night said that LSU has some great defensive backs like they do at LSU, but they're picking on some guy at a first round grade. So I mean I'm excited about I get excited about the draft. I get excited about all this stuff, and but the idea of LSU, like you said, being so loaded in the past few years. I mean, not even scoring a point in one of the finals against Alabama.
Yeah.
Like all those 9-6, 6-3 games with Alabama. I mean, it's just about time that someone came in to infuse that team with some life offensively. And Joe Burrow, we'll see. I mean, it's a lot of times systems make the players. Like the good system with Joe Brady and Burrow seems to be a fit. We'll see what Burrow's like next year. We'll see what Brady's like next year.
We will finish up this show, Tug. We're going to talk a little bit of the Astros scandal.
I want to. I need Nick to move my car.
Oh, do you need to move by noon?
There's a nooner because I'm right across the street. Nick, can I? Where's you gotta go? It's just anywhere that's not on a noon parking spot. Can you? Is it okay to do that?
Well, yeah, we'll wrap up here pretty quick too. We the Astros scandal has finally been
Thank you, Nick.
The punishments have been handed out. The Astros GM and AJ Hinch suspended from Major League Baseball for a year, and then I know a lot of people are fired up to talk about how all of this went down, but then immediately fired by the Astros owner. Sounds like there's punishment still to come for other people on the coaching staff, including Red Sox manager Alex Cora, who may or may not have used some of the Astros' cheating strategies and brought it over to Boston.
Not used. Some say a key piece.
Right.
Yeah.
So one of the guys that maybe is responsible for coming up with the strategy, and then obviously going on to be a manager himself. And I mean, the reports are used a lot of it on his new team. Punishments are being handed down. Mets manager Carlos Beltran, supposedly a key member of the process as well.
Yep.
Thankfully, players not being punished. Beltran was a player at the time, although he's basically a coach. So thank God for that. I mean, look, I think everybody should be punished that was involved in this. But if randomly we're drawing the line between players and coaches, I'm glad that our coach was a player then and not a coach. Also, I'm all for AJ Hinch returning after a 1-year suspension and being the Mets bench coach under Beltran. And look, at this point, I don't believe that you should cheat, but I also believe, goddamn, the Mets should do everything they can to win.
100% agree, right? Like, you feel like the Mets haven't won, since 86. The punishments, $5 million fine.
Yep.
Loss of first and second round draft picks the next 2 years, I believe.
Which is almost nothing. Like, it hurts, but it's not like losing first and second
not when
round
you're
draft
contending.
Picks. Yeah.
You're already contending.
And it's not losing. Like, if you lost your first and second round draft picks in the NFL, that would be.
Yeah, and people say, look at Astros picked with their first picks. Like, they've Springer, all these guys.
No, absolutely.
Some quality players. But they're still contending.
Yep.
They're not going anywhere for the next year or two. My issue is, I said this to you yesterday and Andy, like, it's cheating that everyone's openly admitting to. They're admitting it happened. So they fine the franchise $5 million for winning the World Series. And then he takes money off the books.
Yeah.
So the fine doesn't hurt nearly as much because they fired the two people that actually cost them money.
Now, my problem with the firing is you're firing these guys because they got punished? Because it sure seems like it. Sure seems like you're firing guys because you now have to hire other people to do their jobs for the year. You may as well fire them. It doesn't seem like the owner is firing them because they cheated.
It feels like he wants to do it because it's a clean slate, right?
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Which it seems like he should have. If that was his move, he should have done that when the story came out and when all the evidence was there. I mean, we've seen video evidence of how it happened. Now, there's a lot of stories behind the scenes. AJ Hinch supposedly destroying the equipment twice.
He wasn't into it.
Yeah.
He's basically, his statement is, I disapproved of it. My fault is I didn't do enough to say no. The players are saying, we did it, but if the manager would have said stop, we definitely would have stopped.
Right.
We were just waiting for someone to slap us on the wrists. And now, a common theme in like sort of negotiations and things like that is you blame the man not in the room. Alex Cora, who knows how much he really was a part of this, but everyone's sort of pointing the blame at Alex Cora because he's no longer a part of the organization because it's very easy for them to do that. So
pick on the Latin guy.
Well, who knows where the truth lies, really? Yeah. But everyone knows,
That's why they're putting up a wall, Doug.
The ship be
these
sinking.
Cheaters and these.
The rats come out, and the ship be sinking. So, you remember everyone has that famous tape of AJ Hinch coming out and saying, the Yankees heard whistling.
Right.
This is ridiculous.
Well, I mean, and I guess the thing about, two of the things to take away from it are the way that AJ Hinch handled the accusations. Obviously, he's now being just skewered for making it say it's ludicrous, it's hilarious that we were being accused of this when you were doing it. And then also, obviously, Verlander, who I think we're both fans of Justin Verlander, and really what not to be a fan of. The way he's sort of gotten on a soapbox over the years saying the game has to be on the level, baseballs need to be fixed, everything needs to be fixed. We've all got to be we've all got to be on a level playing field here. I understand that this, as far as we know, wasn't something that was necessarily helping Astros pitchers, but obviously pitching with leads help Astros pitchers and whatever. And I don't think anybody can reasonably say, yeah, pitchers are in the bullpen. Justin Verlander's on the bench when he's not pitching. He's sitting there.
You can hear a trash can being
He
banged.
knows this is going on. He's
100%.
walking by the guy in the tunnel sitting at a computer with a trash can and a bat. Like, a lot of people sort of on the record here of being on their high horse, now just being exposed as total frauds.
A lot of willful ignorance.
Yeah.
My feeling is, how do you I love game. I said this last week. I love game theory. I love where you can get an edge, but you have to think about the process. But pro sports are so transient with employees, players. Do you think someone's not going to go somewhere else?
Right.
How do they think this was not going to be
Right.
able to come out? Someone goes to another team and says,
only Belichick seems to have down the we cheat, and if guys go elsewhere, we murder them in their jail cells. Only Belichick has like the Epstein, like the like closing the loose ends.
Yeah.
Aaron Hernandez suicide. But everybody else, like, yeah, of course. And in baseball, when you're running a team that was, I don't want to say they were anything close to a dynasty, but like a mini successful, like super successful run, and also built to succeed long term, you're going to have to be ahead of it, and you're going to have to let guys go who are, sort of get over the hill, replace them with younger, better. Of course, those guys are going to be like, "Fuck you."
100%.
Like the
You
idea.
get traded in season. They're like, but we play the Astros. Guess what, guys?
Yeah.
They got this thing going.
Yeah.
I mean, not only that, like there's a book. I actually went on this podcast and I said I like the way the Astros run their organization, and little did I know, like the organization is rotten from the inside.
Yeah.
There was the assistant GM that trashed that reporters.
Yep.
There's and it took days, if not a week, for the the ownership to come out and say they were wrong. There's the cheating scandal. There was a book that basically praised the way they went about and did
Manfred essentially put out a statement the other day that just hammered the Astros front office.
the culture.
Yeah.
I mean, and all which brings I guess the last question I want to ask you is, if you're a fan of the Dodgers or whatever else, like people are talking about, like Keith Olbermann's banging the drum, pun intended, for the championship to be removed and no one gets a ring that year.
Right.
Asterisk on that year. Thoughts on that? How do we solve cheating? How do we cure that?
my manager saw that we were talking about this and sent me a link. Dodger fan wants to file class action lawsuit against the Astros. I tend to agree that you have to take it away, much like has been happening in so many college football and college basketball scandals. The championship gets wiped from the books, but you don't hand it to the other team. And I honestly I think that's fair, because who's to say the team that the Astros beat in the ALCS doesn't go on to beat the Dodgers?
Yeah.
And it's really not fair to hand the championship to somebody else. Again, who's to say some team that was eliminated from playoff contention because they lost 4 games in that season to the Astros doesn't go on and went, like, God, what the Oakland A's could have done with home field advantage. There's so many moving parts here that I think to say, oh, well, the team that they lost the World Series gets it. So I say, yeah, just strike them from the books. And then I think it leads to the bigger question, and I think something that you, me, and Andy were all sort of equally fired up about on text, which is this scandal is so blatant, and like you said, there's video evidence of it. There's guys on the record of it. And we're talking about a year suspension for the manager and the GM, $5 million and some draft picks. Pete Rose is suspended from baseball forever. Every single member of the 1918, whatever it
Yeah.
is, White Sox suspended forever. How does the entire White Sox team get suspended forever? And this comes down to the GM, the manager, $5 million and some draft picks.
And people will say, this cheating's been going on, sign stealing has been going on since the dawn of the game. But like, you guys are using technology in a way that it's just blatantly. You guys are openly know you're cheating. There's like game within the game,
Sure.
and then there's manipulating the game. This is obvious cheating.
Yeah.
That everyone admitted to. I can't believe that it's just 1 year. I can't believe that Pete Rose, a guy who's like is a known degenerate, like still didn't bet against. He didn't sabotage his own team or do anything to like enhance the team.
And in a way, I'm not necessarily saying that every Astro on this team should be banned from baseball for life. I think the punishments that were handed out in the past are sort of antiquated, like medieval punishments. But also at the same time, the Black Sox, I think everybody's long gone. I don't think shoeless Joe Jackson's grandson needs to whatever. But Pete Rose is alive and well. Like, we need to look. This is like, we need to look back. This is like people being in, life sentences for having dime bags. We need to correct these things while we can. If you are saying this is reasonable punishments for blatantly cheating and stealing a World Series and potentially stealing other World Series from other teams, Pete Rose can't be suspended from baseball for life.
People will be getting in the Hall of Fame because they used a camera to tell them what pitch to be looking for.
Yeah.
That's just not okay.
Yeah.
I mean, baseball gets on the, and it's different from sport to sport. Like, NFL is okay with like 4 games, go back and play,
Right.
steroids, whatever. But like, the guys have access. I mean, I watched the video yesterday of Danny Farquhar, basically, the White Sox middle reliever, who kind of found out in the middle of the game, like, oh, I'm hearing trash can, I'm hearing banging, something. They know something.
Yeah.
And how quickly the bangs would come. It was so obvious. Now, I saw a story about how other teams used to, maybe old White Sox used to use a scout in right field. If he was sitting in the seat next to the pole, it'd be a fastball.
Right.
If he wasn't, it was off speed. So there's cool, there's things like that that happen,
Yeah.
but the speed with which, by going back behind the dugout and looking at a monitor.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Crazy.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, and then like obviously we've all seen the videos now that have been out for months of other guys figuring it out and how it happened. But like, yeah, and honestly, you look at those Astros playoff games, especially in the World Series year against the Dodgers. But how long was it going on before? How long was it going on after? I mean, they made. Like, it just seemed like they got big hits whenever they fucking needed them. And, I know there's talk of there were certain guys who didn't want to know, and there are certain guys, who, like, it just fucked them up more and whatever. But, like, just knowing that you have that option available, it's ridiculous. It's, like, it's an edge that is, like, completely unfair.
And my bigger take is what I said earlier, is, like, if you guys are going to cheat, like, cheating happens, I'm okay with getting an edge. But you got to make sure you close up all the loopholes. Like,
yeah.
I mean, anyone that's traded, I don't know, like $1 million NDA. I don't know what the players need to do to keep other players from leaking that. But like, this is not going to end well for these players. I mean, it's gonna hang over their heads when the Hall of Fame stuff comes up.
Yeah, for sure. Every single one of these guys, and that's something that you can't help but to question. I love a lot of the players as players on the Astros, standouts, including Altuve and Bregman. These are guys who just like, how are they doing it at their size? And then you got now you go, well, they knew a pitch was coming, so that helps.
Yeah.
If you're a right-handed hitter in a ballpark with a short porch in left field, and you're 5'8" and 5'10", but if it's an off-speed pitcher, that gives you a fucking freak edge. Because literally all you have to do is hit a 340-foot pop-up and get it out into the fucking Crawford boxes. And those guys did it seemingly like at will.
I think it's an incredible story. I think it's like, I'm going to put this on Twitter, but I think it's like going to make an amazing movie because there's so much psychology involved, like players having to decide, I'm going to willingly cheat. Like, who thought, who's the real originator of this idea? I'm sure there's going to be a great book, like Michael Lewis should write this as a sequel to Moneyball.
Yeah.
I mean, I would eat this thing up because it involves.
Yeah, you were throwing out some casting suggestions.
Yeah, I
before.
think Joe Prano should be Justin Verlander.
I've gotten Verlander from time to time.
I think you should 100% be Verlander. I welcome.
Can Kate Upton play Kate Upton?
Absolutely.
I think that just seems. She's done some movie roles.
I invite the Dirtballs to cast me somewhere. I'll play whoever. I won't play Altuve though. It just doesn't feel right. But I just feel like this like it feels like a little bit like Watergate to me. Like, this is interesting. This runs deep, and and it may bleed to other teams. They might find out other teams are doing it. Like, it spread to the Red Sox. It's very interesting, very compelling story.
Yeah, I think
Nick stole my car.
Yeah, Nick's gone. I think to wrap it up, I think in a way, punishment not enough for this. I think we all agree that the punishment should be stronger. I think we all agree that World Series should be stricken from the record books. And I'd like to see them, now that they have become reasonable, maybe too reasonable with their punishments, I think they need to go back and look at some of the people that are locked up in baseball prison and adjust their punishments accordingly. I know Andy Ruther has abandoned every team from Cincinnati except for the Cincinnati Reds, so he will appreciate that we are here saying, let Pete Rose be in the fucking Hall of Fame already.
I gotta agree with that.
Tug, that's our show. We're gonna wrap it up. I was gonna have Nick go into the YouTube comments for us for a little wrap up here, but he's off joyriding around the west side of
my
LA.
car. I mean, Andy. One thing that Andy will be excited about when he comes home, Mildred has been cleaned up a little bit.
Oh, has it?
Yes, it has. Mildred's been cleaned up a little since he last left. Nick's probably excited by the ability to drive a car in LA. And I didn't move my car because of street cleaning. So, sorry.
Well, where can everybody find you? What should everybody?
Yeah, check me out, Tug Coker on Twitter and Instagram.
You were on Instagram last week. You were at Disney Studios.
I was on Disney Studios.
Were you in a period piece?
I am. I'll hopefully the show airs in the next couple weeks. I'll be excited to announce that show. I'm sure you guys can deduce what show it is. But some great outfits.
The Mandalorian.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But as always, my thoughts and wishes are out to the Ruther family. Andy, we miss you. Can't wait to have you back. And continue to let me know, however I can help. Joe, always great to be with you. Again, I am the nurse for you. Let me know how I can help you.
Thank you.
And best luck with the knee. And the gigantic, guys, the ankle is it's a cantaloupe.
Yeah,
and
I think it's gotten worse during this episode, so we're gonna dial this back so I can go see an orthopedic surgeon. At Fix Your Life on Twitter, at Joe Prano on Instagram, at Joe Prano on Venmo, as I have to go see an orthopedic surgeon today and pay out of pocket. If you downloaded the Waze, if you downloaded the Coach O voice from Waze, throw me a couple bucks on Venmo for just making all of your rides better. I have no problem begging for money at this point. My knee is hanging multiple places.
He's back.
So Nick is on where are you on Twitter?
Nick Dale. It's Nick Dale, but the L in Dale is actually a capital I because some dude in Australia.
Nick Dale, L is a capital I. At Andy Ruther on Twitter and Instagram, because you should still follow Andy on his social media and send him a lot of well wishes. Follow us at The Dirty Sports on all social media. And, of course, rate, review, and subscribe to this show. It's always helpful. If you send us screenshots of you using any of our promo codes or putting up a review, Andy, when he gets back into town, we'll send you 2 koozies, or maybe we'll point Nick in the direction of the post office. Guys, that's our show. Tune in later in this week. Andy will still be gone. Tug will still be here, hopefully. And who knows who'll be in my seat. Hopefully me with a reconstructed knee. And, yeah, that's it, guys. Stay dirty. Thank you, Nick. I appreciate it. Now all we got to do is end the